That the board accept the resignation of William Barber and that the board direct the board secretary to forward the resignation to the Town of Aylmer Council for acceptance and consideration of a new appointment. So if we are to do the,
We're going into an election mode,
yep, if we are to do an election at this point, I would call for any members who wish to nominate the chair. Are there any members who wish to nominate or present themselves as chair?
I nominate Pete Barber.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, Member Graves. And Member Barber, do you accept the nomination?
On the interim, I would accept that.
Okay, all in favor? And it's carried.
And you
Can-
can defer a vice chair if you wish. You can defer a vice chair because that's an optional.
What's the board's pleasure?
I think we should try and put somebody in that position because if, for instance, you got sick or something, we would need someone to take over. So I am going to nominate Sherry to be vice chair.
Is there a seconder to that nomination? Okay, and Member Andrews, do you accept the nomination as vice chair?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? And it's carried. So the resolution would be that the board appoints Member Barber as the interim chair for the Police Service Board, and that the board appoints Member Andrews as vice chair for the Police Service Board.
Oh, sure. Again. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Confirmation of the
Board
agenda?
appoints. My apologies. We're just getting a comment from a viewer online that they're not quite hearing us, so just make sure your microphone's on. Confirmation of the agenda, that the board accepts the agenda with no additions for the meeting of February 13th, 2026.
A mover and a second. Member Sherry. Member French. Discussion. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And the minutes of the December the 12th meeting.
That the board adopts the minutes noting no errors or omissions.
Moved by Member Andrews. Member Graves. Discussion. All those in favor? Okay, that motion is carried. We do not have any delegations. Any unfinished business? New business. Item number 9.1, reports. Chief of Police.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, submitted are the weekly Aylmer Police Service media reports, subject to any questions of the board.
That the media releases from the Chief of Police be received for information.
Moved by Member French, seconded by Member Andrews. Discussion? All in favor? And that is carried. 9.2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Prepared for the benefit of the board is the Q4 collision statistics throughout our services dealings for the completion of 2025. Not unlike any of the other quarterly reports that's been provided in this regard, breaks down how many motor vehicle collisions, and in particular on page 6, which is ultimately page 27 of 100. There is a dial-pointed spreadsheet of the locations in which all of the reported occurrences have been at, which is quite helpful. Obviously, collision dates, January was our biggest month, largely attributed due to weather, and then throughout the rest of the year was rather average. Notable date was Fridays, and the most occurrent time of collisions was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Environmental conditions of the bulk were clear and the road conditions were good, and the apparent driver action was normal, so genuine collisions, if you will. Failed remains throughout 2025, the total were 15 that were investigated by our members, none of which resulted in any injuries and were primarily just property damage reports. Collisions involving pedestrians, we had 4 MVC versus pedestrians in 2025. Most of them were intersection related or parking lot related. Again, no serious injuries, thankfully. No collisions reported during 2025 involving cyclists, and none that we attributed to alcohol. Not unlike any of the other quarterly reports, the top intersections are John and Talbot, Clarence and Forth, and Queen and Talbot, John and Talbot East. So obviously that's just attributed to the sheer volume and that being the biggest intersection in town. I think anybody who drives down that road sees the volume of traffic that passes through this town on the daily, so it's not surprising. And considering the volume, I'd say that's pretty respectable. So subject to any questions in that regard, that's the Q4 and ultimately the annual report for collisions for 2025.
Okay, thanks, Chief. I got a little out of sync on the last matter. I apologize for that. We're dealing with 9.2 resolution, Michelle.
That the 2025 Q4 collision statistics presented by the Chief of Police be received for information.
Thank you. Moved by Member Graves, Member French. Discussion? All in favor? Oh, discussion?
I did have one comment that I just wanted to question. Sorry. So based on the results, is there any actions taken by the Aylmer Police Service, obviously targeting the biggest intersections or the most accidents that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, within the first quarter of last year, we identified the same thing, and the deputy assigned a couple traffic projects that were run in that intersection on multiple occasions, both involving uniformed officers and plainclothes officers that were situated in positions looking like pedestrians. We're targeting the inattentiveness of the cell phones and the late lights. I don't have the number this meeting for how many charges we laid, but it was actually rather significant. So I know through our discussions and trying to plan our spring traffic enforcement, that's certainly on the list, but yeah, there has been targeted enforcement there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Backing up to 9.1, media releases. A mover and a seconder to receive the information. Member Andrews? Member French?
Did we not do that, Chair?
I was out of sync, but
Oh,
we
I'm
didn't
sorry.
actually have the vote.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I believe.
A mover and seconder, member French moved
Oh.
and member Andrews seconded.
Well, if you're gonna mess it up on my part, you really must mess it up, right? Oh, did we have the vote, Michelle? Okay, thank you. 9.3, Chief of Police.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Presented for the benefit of the board is the unaudited financial statements for the end of 2025. Ms. Sachs and I have gone over this ad nauseum, and we have all but closed out one outstanding invoice. So I'll draw the attention to the board at the bottom. We are forecasting a surplus of about $117,000 right now. Save and accept one late invoice for some software licensing, which will be around 10,000. So we will still be north of 100,000, somewhere around 107. This is largely attributed to a strong reduction in our part-time labor and moving over to a full-time complement, supplemented by several secondments that we were able to secure with the Ontario Police College, where 2 members remain, and we had a temporary secondment of Sergeant Castra at the DEV for Q4 of 2025, which also helped in that regard, and then some shifts supplemented by the deputy and I. So subject to any questions, that is the unaudited financial statements for 2025. Once we have the final, obviously that will be presented likely at the next board meeting, and the auditor will be at that meeting usually like she is every other year. So subject to any questions on that, that's the 30,000-foot overview on the 2025 financials.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions from the members of the board? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder, please. Member Andrews, Member Graves, discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to the next one, 9.4. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Provided for the benefit of the board is a report regarding the updated fleet status of the Aylmer Police Service. Provided within the executive summary here, we have 4 marked police cruisers. That's for general patrol, and we have 1 small compact vehicle that was purchased through a grant several years ago for victim support and transporting to the hospital and that type of thing. Ultimately, with the succession plan of the replacement schedule for the vehicles, as the board's well aware, we've been hanging on to vehicles for about 8 years. That presents obviously some significant mechanical issues towards the latter portion of the vehicle life, which has been relatively well managed through maintenance, but we've run into a point where we have been without vehicles. We had a collision, as the board's well aware, in December. We had 2 vehicles die. We've had several instances where we've had to have tow trucks out in the middle of the night, thereby reducing our complement, to the point where we had 1 operational cruiser very recently, which obviously produces some operational response concerns. What we were able to do, and for the benefit of the board, after the collision with our F-150, it was deemed a total loss by the insurance company. No problem, but when you go to buy another vehicle right now, we are somewhere between 8 to 10 months for an F-150, and we're about 6 to 8 months for a Ford Explorer. Obviously, we could not wait that long. Through some connections, we were able to secure a brand new Ford Explorer 2026 unit from the Guelph Police Service, who had a surplus that they were waiting to upfit that they sold to us for cost. So that is currently being upfitted in St. Thomas, and we expect to have that on the road hopefully this afternoon. It's been a long time coming. And then to bridge the gap in between, we purchased a used vehicle from the Sarnia Police Service that was at the end of their replacement schedule, which was a 2021 Dodge Charger with just over 100,000 kilometers on it for $4,000, which was a very considerate deal from them. And that came to us with the MDT in it, all of the lights and sirens, all of the emergency equipment that we would need. The only thing we really needed to do to it was put decals on it. So we did that, and that has bridged the gap here in the meantime. So we are still operating at 3 vehicles right now. The other problem that we have found is anytime we have members that need to attend a course or a conference or court, or even something as simple as errands, we don't have a vehicle. So we have a marked vehicle, potentially, and in this most recent case, we don't. And again, we found ourselves basically behind the eight ball, not having fleet ready. The concerns that we have on the operational standpoint is that if we have a containment, or we have a scene, or we need to have police officers present, we can't run containment without 4 marked cruisers, whether that's for canine, a barricaded person, or whatever. So the general patrol fleet needs to be the general patrol fleet. So the solution that we've put forward here for consideration of the board, again, with the kind gesture from our friends at the Sarnia Police Service, they have offered us another Dodge Charger for $4,000 that has, I believe this one has 95,000 kilometers on it. We have a vehicle that we had ordered in August of last year, which was for the normal replacement schedule for unit number 1. Still hasn't landed yet. We're still waiting for that one. It's due in at the end of this month, they tell us. So our proposed plan would be to secure another Dodge Charger from the Sarnia Police Service, which we would put into frontline operations, which would bring us to 2 Dodge Chargers on the fleet right now, a 2022 Ford Explorer, and ultimately the 2026 Ford Explorer, which we hope to have on the road today. That takes care of the 4 marked vehicles. What my recommendation would be is that the vehicle that we are awaiting, which should land end of February, we will pull into fleet. We will not decal it up, but we will put lights and sirens in it, and we will use that as an administrative car. This will allow officers to go to courses because obviously with the collective bargaining agreement, we are paying people mileage if they're taking their own vehicles, which is problematic and arguably more expensive. So this will at least have an administrative car, and to this point, for what it's worth, I mean, there's been 4 or 5 times now the deputy and I have rolled up in a personal vehicle to a call because we simply don't have the vehicles to get to the calls. We're happy to do that in an emergency, but it provides some problems as well. So the benefit of having this vehicle sitting in our pool as an administrative vehicle with lights and sirens is we can use it for containment if we need to, for a traffic point or for a road closure, what have you. But in the event we find ourselves where a vehicle is catastrophically damaged or needs replacement that's significant, we have that administrative vehicle that we can move over into the fleet and put a cage in and put decals in within the week. So we will never find ourselves in this 8 to 10 month purgatory period where we are without fleet and then backfill that. So I'll preface this by saying it's not flashy, it's not great that we're buying used equipment. I mean, the morale side of it is one thing, and I mean, we don't want to certainly look like we're a second-class police service, but this is an ends to a means, and I would suggest that this is a temporary fix to get us to a position where we're able to successfully turn over the fleet, to manage it in a way that we won't see significant maintenance long-term. We'll be able to maintain operations with 4 vehicles, and we'll be able to maintain that administrative side, whether it's the deputy and I going to meetings or courses, or our members taking that car to go to courses or court. We have that ability. So subject to the board's approval, I would be seeking a resolution in that we authorize the purchase of 1 more Dodge Charger in the amount of $4,000 from the Sarnia Police Service, and further that the board authorizes the disposal of Unit 2 via auction. And just to touch up on Unit 2, that one had 200,000 kilometers on it. It was a 2020. And the issue that was plaguing us with that one was we were getting carbon monoxide issues infiltrating the cab to the point where we were having health and safety complaints. We had the CO2 monitor lent to us by the fire department, and it was triggering alarms within the first couple minutes. So obviously we can't continue to kind of put that and put our members out on that in that vehicle. So that was the operational decision to remove it from the fleet as well, thereby increasing the void that we were facing. So operationally, I'm not looking for anything in the way of capital. I can certainly assure the board that I can manage this within the operating budget, and the only ancillary costs would be attributed largely to insurance, which is about $175 a month for another vehicle. So as far as increasing the fleet, my respectful submission is that $4,000 is about as good as it gets. So subject to any questions from the board, that is my request.
Thanks, Chief. Questions? Member Graves?
Just really quickly, Kyle, the 4,000 that we get for those Dodge Chargers, down the road, you probably could get that much for them to sell them anyway, right?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, and yes, that is true. The number that Sarnia has come up with is largely in line with what they were getting at auction, so they're basically net zeroing it to us. Save and except the computer that's still in it, the lights and sirens and all the things that need the upfitting is significant, but that's also included for us. So, yeah, it would be a break even, basically.
Thank you. Member French?
Thank you. I have no problem with this. I think it's a good idea for now. But I do have a suggestion, and maybe it's something the board would agree with, I don't know. Maybe we need to rethink again how we're, going through our vehicles and like the updates and what year and how many years. I don't know what the board thinks, but it just sounds like this way that we're doing it now may actually be costing more money in the long run. And I know that, it's worked, but perhaps if the board's agreeable, maybe you could, do a little bit of figuring and maybe come up with a new plan just to show us if there is something that we could be doing that's just a little bit better than what we are doing now for replacement of vehicles. And because I believe you said what is it, every, number one unit, and then how long is it supposed to be in use?
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, and that was actually kind of on our radar, and I'd be happy to put together a proposal and kind of a fleet replacement schedule for the board's consideration. But yeah, right now, the way we're doing it is one vehicle every 2 years. So through the attrition of 4, not even including the 5th, which would be factored into that at some point, we're landing at 8 years. The other thing that compounds this problem a little bit, when you hang on to the vehicles for 8 years, the body styles generally change. So we aren't able to just take the cage and some of the lights and some of the things and just put them in the same because it's changed so much. Thereby, we have to increase the emergency equipment line. So there are certainly some benefits, and I know through some of the data we get from our GPS and everything that comes back as well, we can certainly find that cost benefit point. And there is a provincial cooperative amongst police services that is a fleet group that, with a very fine science, have that cost benefit weighed out. So yeah, if the board wishes and subject to the approval, I would be more than happy to work with the deputy and put together a cost benefit proposal on a fleet replacement moving forward.
Follow up?
Thank you very much for that, and I appreciate that. I think that'd be phenomenal if we could get that information so that the board can look at those statistics, because we don't want to be, wasting good money after bad or bad after good, you know what I mean? Because literally 8 years is a long time, so maybe if you, could do that and analysis and bring it back, I know we'd appreciate that.
Member Andrews?
I was going to bypass my comment, but I appreciate what Member French is proposing. But I would also like to say, it's great to see that you're being fiscally responsible. So if we can just take it another step further, then why not? But I mean, what we're seeing is you're keeping the operation moving with, good choices with the cars that you've obtained. So, yeah, I think it's a good proposal from you, Mary, and let's see what you come up with. Thank you.
Member Graves?
Chief, does it look like you're going to continue to obtain the same kind of vehicles? That way the cage and everything might transfer from one to the next?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And through you, Mr. Chair, it's somewhat cyclical in the sense that models end sometimes, and I think we all remember the Crown Vic era that lasted for so long and everything was plug and play and that was great. And then insert the completion of that and everything's been chaos ever since. Certain things at certain times are priced more favorably, and we certainly look at that. We purchase our new vehicles through the Ontario Police Cooperative, which gives us a reduced rate. But whatever Ford does or whatever Chrysler does, we obviously have no control in. For example, when we decided to buy the F-150 in 2024, they were pricing those significantly more favorably than they were the Explorers. come to replace that truck, the opposite is now true. So the trucks have significantly increased in value. They've reduced the Explorers, and my understanding is that's a bit of a marketing thing with supply and demand and what they have on hand. So to fast forward to the second part of that, yeah, we do look at what we can kind of take the pieces and put on the other cars to kind of keep that cost down. But again, with the model years being so outdated by the time we hit 8, and when you have an external light bar that's been in the, the weather for 8 years, it's basically obsolete. And to that point, we've moved to an all-interior lighting package on this new vehicle, which we should get some longevity out of because it's not exposed to the elements. So we're going to try that. But yeah, it's certainly a consideration.
Thanks, Chief. A couple of questions that I was going to ask have already been answered regarding the change of models and the cost. Does the purchase of the additional unit from Sarnia put us back in sync with the plan now, subject to any change later on? And could you explain, so we all understand, why we're switching from a pickup truck, which would seem to be very practical, but it isn't going to be replaced on this cycle?
So thank you. So to the point with the pickup truck, a couple of reasons. One was simply the long duration of the replacement to get it back. We couldn't manage that with a fleet our size. So that was the primary decision, was based on operations. And I'm sorry, what was the first point of your question?
That we're back on sync into the replacement cycle as it sits today?
No. So insert the 2 used cars that are at the 100,000 mark in 2021s. I mean, we're not further ahead long-term, we're further ahead immediately. So that'll certainly be considered in the replacement schedule proposal that we'll bring forward. And unfortunately, sometimes things change, as we all know. Sometimes you end up with a lemon. Sometimes you get things that are great. So I can say this, having worked in another police service, the fleet here and the way that our officers treat the vehicles is remarkable. They're in great shape. There's pride in it. There's not damage like I've seen sometimes in other places that maybe have less accountability because of a bigger fleet and more officers. So that certainly bodes for an advantage for us, and something we take into consideration. So,
Thanks, Chief. Further questions? Okay. We'll consider a resolution to receive the report with the addition of asking for a staff report to review the replacement vehicle schedule. Would someone like to move that resolution, please? Member French, seconded by Member Andrews. Michelle?
That report, Police Service Board 01-26, regarding the 2026 police vehicle fleet update be received as information, and that the board authorizes the disposal of a 2020 Ford Explorer Unit 2 via public auction and the purchase of a used 2021 Dodge Charger from the Sarnia Police Service in the amount of $4,000, and that the Chief of Police be directed to bring forward a report or a fleet replacement schedule proposal outlining the cost-benefit analysis.
Thank you. Moved by? Member French, Member Andrews, sorry, we did that already, did we not? My apologies again. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Moving on to 9.5, to receive the report, moved by? We're just receiving this report, Member Andrews and Member French. Deputy?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to run through some highlights from 2025, some incidents that of note for our police service. The biggest one we had was a $1.2 million fraud. An area woman had befriended a local male that had a significant amount of money, and through a period of time cashed many checks in his name and forged his name to them and put them in her bank account. So we had many officer hours regarding production orders and search warrants. As a result, she was arrested for many fraud-related offenses and taken into custody, and she was released and remains before the courts. The second incident of note is a Facebook Marketplace transaction that went bad. Male party showed up for a transaction, ended up assaulting the homeowner while the transaction was going on and fled with the items. The male was arrested in St. Thomas for robbery, and he remains before the courts. The third one was a quite popular, significant news story within the town recently. Area male had assaulted his girlfriend's young infant child over a period of time while he was looking after the child. He is facing several charges, including assault caused bodily harm, suffocation, and other charges. He remains before the courts as well. We had a traffic stop where a 36-year-old female was stopped for speeding, and through investigation, our officers located large quantity of drugs within the vehicle. She was taken into custody and charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking. There was about $8,000 worth of drugs in the vehicle. And then lastly, I just want to comment on the use of force reports that were submitted by our officers in 2025. We only submitted 11 use of force reports to the ministry, which I find is very good. Of the 11, 8 were to put down sick or injured animals. 3 were for CEWs being drawn, and of the 3, 1 was where the CEW was deployed for a male that was trying to harm himself with an edge weapon. So I attribute that to, the training our officers receive. We're now wearing body-worn cameras, so they're more accountable for their actions. Strong community relationships they have, and our consistent use of de-escalation before we go to force. Any questions regarding those incidents? The next is just a snapshot of our charge breakdown for 2025. At the top is the chart is Highway Traffic Act offenses and provincial offenses. Our charges are up about 18% from 2024 to 2025. You'll see that there's the domestic-related offenses and assaults. There's 38. That also includes the breaches, but all the other numbers are pretty consistent with previous years. And then we go into breakdown of areas of crime within the department. So we started with violent crime. The numbers are pretty consistent to previous years. We haven't seen an increase with that, along with the charges. Property crimes are down. I attribute that to our focus patrols and directed patrols and officers out being visible within the community. Impaired driving, pretty consistent numbers. We do a lot of ride programs throughout the year, which is attributed to these numbers and the arrests for impaired driving. Drug crimes are down. Intimate partner violence numbers are pretty consistent through previous years. As we can see, motor vehicle collisions are up, and we attribute that to the volume of traffic within the town of Aylmer. It's significantly up compared to previous years. Mental Health Act numbers, as you can see, those numbers are up. We now have the MCERT mental health team here Thursdays and Fridays. We have quite a few walk-ins now that come and seek help and resources from them, as well as we have a number of people in the community that have some significant mental health needs, and we've been addressing those throughout the year, so that's why you'll see the increase in numbers there. Provincial offense charges, I think they're up just as a result of calls for service being up and the volume of traffic we have within the town. Our prisoners processed are up to 160 prisoners processed from 136 from last year, which is a good number. Our officers are busy, and that just shows they're out there doing their job. Overall, calls for service are up about 500 from last year. I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Thanks, Deputy. Questions from the board? I'd like to just make a comment of the efforts of the Aylmer Police in trying to raise awareness for social media scams, and your continuing efforts to encourage people to be very careful on even the most basic transactions, because nobody is immune. and great work, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. If I may, I'd also just like to remind people too that we have marketed our station as a Facebook or a Kijiji safe zone under the cameras and with our lobby and also in our parking lot. So we'll probably top that up on our social media again as well. One of the things I would just like to draw the board's attention to with respect to the stats, and Michelle, I'm not sure, are you able to go up just a little bit more with IPV and Mental Health Act? So we've also started tracking the data between IPV calls and what's resulting in charges, because obviously people can have domestic related arguments. We go and we do a great job at kind of getting people, calmed down, de-escalated, like the deputy said, and resources. So that's a new stat that we're tracking, and obviously not very many lead to charges. So that's kind of a reassuring stat, if you will. And then the same is tracked with respect to the Mental Health Act, because these ones are very, very time consuming, and they become exceptionally time consuming when an apprehension is involved. We get a lot of calls, obviously, 94 for 2025, where people are, escalated or suffering some mental health episode. And the stat that results in apprehensions for those ones is actually, it's quite high. So, and that's not uncommon with everywhere else, but then that takes 2 officers out of town to the hospital, which is St. Thomas for us, which can be hours there. We do leverage a protocol that we have under an MOU with St. Thomas Elgin General Hospital on when our officers are able to be cleared, because under the Mental Health Act, once the police apprehend somebody, we cannot relieve that custody until we are relieved legally by a doctor. So that's a stat that we're tracking and monitoring as well. And then the last one, like the deputy said with the Mental Health Act stuff, our numbers are up with that as well. And the resources with community mental health are going exceptionally well. The probation partnership that we've mentioned previously, she's now working 2 days a week with us, Wednesdays and Thursdays. And MCERT is also with us as well. So we're seeing a huge increase in people that are coming in for probation services, leveraging the resources that are available by having the MCERT worker present, whether it's gatekeeping them with addictions or housing or just social services. It's going very, very well. So likely at our next meeting, we'll be able to speak to some improvements that are going to be coming to our lobby, which will only improve this as well. So overall, I think operations are going very well. So subject to any questions, that's our report.
Member French?
Thank you. A question about the traffic volumes. Where do you get the statistics that they've increased? And because the numbers have went up in collisions, is there any way we can remediate that, like through those numbers? So I guess first, where do you get your statistics?
Thank you for the question. We don't have a definite number. It's based on observations. And if you see on the weekends and especially around the market and stuff like that, and it's bumper to bumper, traffic stopped. But we can see the volume of traffic in town and how hard it is. It's only one way in and one way out a lot of ways, right? So through observations throughout the year, the number of accidents and even enforcement and the amount of vehicles we're dealing with, it just shows that there is an increased volume. I do not have an exact number for you, though.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Chair, just if I may, just drawing the board's attention to the very bottom there, Michelle, if you can, the last of that one, with respect to the budget breakdown. Right there. You'll see how we've been tracking it over the last several years, broken down with non-operational, the operational, contract, rental, and revenue. Again, the revenue is significant through record checks and our Ontario Police College secondments, but again, you'll see exactly where we landed, and we're quite pleased to see a surplus. So,
Thank you. We had a motion to receive the report, and any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the report? And the motion is carried. 9.6, Chief, to receive the report. Moved by Member Andrews and Member French, seconding. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, this is with respect to the Community Safety and Policing Act section agreements, which speak to both temporary assistance, and I'll also bring the board up to speed on some kind of forecasting and where we're going with this. So, under the current legislation, if police service is in need or in receipt of temporary assistance, that triggers a notification to the IOP, which the chief makes electronically. Within the legislation, I'm required to report back to the board on any of these requests that are made. And throughout the year, we were only part of 3. So the first one obviously was where we gave assistance to the Ottawa Police Service with respect to their Canada Day celebrations and needing general duties. And that was a cost of net zero to the Aylmer Police Service, fully recuperated from the Ottawa Police Service. 2 instances where we sought temporary assistance. One was respect to a rather significant IPV investigation where we believed someone was hiding in an attic. We requested the services of K9, which was done so through the St. Thomas Police Service. And as this officer was off duty, we bore the entire callback salary and wages for that officer, which was completely understandable. It was to the tune of about $700, and that was paid out of operating. The last one was with respect to a digital forensics request through the Strathroy Caradoc Police Service, in which they gave us temporary assistance for extractions on some digital devices. And that was done through them with no cost to us. So subject to any questions, that's my reporting requirement under the Act. And should there be no questions, I'll go on to the second part of that.
Questions, board? Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to forecast this for the board, police services are able to enter into section agreements with other police services to provide services in which we may not have or in which we can effectively partner on. So myself and Chief Roskamp and St. Thomas are kind of working through our section agreement on how it's going to be reciprocal so that we don't have to keep this reporting mechanism up. So once this section agreement's in place and then authorized by the board, we'll file it with the IOP and we can conduct operations unilaterally without triggering these notifications. So I'm sure someone back there would be very happy that that's going to happen. So it shouldn't be too long. The chief and I have a meeting next week in St. Thomas to kind of finalize this. And then just within this last week, something we were waiting for from the province was released, which was a framework that deals with the OPP as well. So we'll have all of those ironed out here shortly and provided to the board, subject to any questions.
Thanks, Chief. Questions? All right. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. 9.7, financial statements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So P1 for 2026 is before the board for information. There is nothing of an abnormal sense at the moment. Obviously, within the first period of the year, we're behind on some invoices that haven't landed until the end of Q1, and conversely, we have a lot of upfront membership costs that are coming in that we will put forward with the association fees, et cetera. Of that, there is one line item on here that is at 244% under furniture and equipment. However, that's it was a misnomer and was improperly bucketed, so it's been journal entered off to another line, and everything's well under. So, other than that, we're sitting at 11% for basically P1 of 2026. So nothing out of the ordinary, and nothing out of the ordinary that the deputy and I are forecasting as well.
Questions? Okay, a motion to receive the report and adopt. Member Graves, Member Andrews, discussion? All in favor? And that motion is carried. 9.8, Chief of Police, to receive the report. Somebody like to move that we receive that? Member Andrews, Member French. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe I'll just speak to that briefly and perhaps Mr. Leclerc would like to top up as well, but the IOP obviously released basically some correspondence in relation to what transpired within the charges of the Toronto Police Service. And he's announced, the Inspector General's announced his intention to do basically a systemic review, as I understand it, of police services as it relates to supervision, scope of supervision, policies, procedures, and things of the sort. So paraphrasing, but I suspect it's very, very early for them to even roll out exactly what that's going to look like, but they've put everyone effectively on notice. So as I echo my counterparts with other police services, this is good. No one shies away from this. If there's, going to be some changes or some increased oversight that will, benefit Ontario policing as a whole, we welcome it. So we'll wait and see what that looks like. But subject to any questions or perhaps any comments from Mr. Leclerc, that's all I have.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will concur with the chief that it is early days. The nature and scope of the inspection was outlined by the Inspector General, but how that is going to be rolled out, it's too soon to tell. At the moment, they're still in the process of deciding who's actually going to do the work, and then obviously come up with a more tighter terms of reference, and then come up with a plan to conduct the inspection. So it is early days. We're like a week from that announcement. So stay tuned. As I get information, I will be happy to share with the board.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, can we have that motion then, or we have the motion, all in favor? And they're all in favor. Motion is carried. Thank you. Correspondence 10.1 through 10.4. To receive the correspondence, a mover and a seconder. Member Andrews, Member French. Questions? Okay, all in favor? That motion is carried.
Mr. Chair, if I may, can I just top up on, if I can, on 10.3 and perhaps 10.4? Just for the board's awareness, this has been another topic that's been widespread in the media surrounding the federal gun buyback program. So operationally, I've made the decision in the interim that we are not going to be participating in this program for a couple of reasons, and this is not unlike any other police service in Ontario. The scope, the labor involved, all of the back end work that's involved in this is still very, very new and very laborious for the smaller police services, particularly us. This would be a whole another thing. So we have followed the direction of the OACP as the guidance that we're basically going to hold and see how this unfolds, but for the moment, we will not be participating in it. That's the operational decision I made in the interim, subject to the board's approval moving forward.
Questions? And Chief, you wanted to speak on 10.4 as well?
Yeah, if I can, and through you, Mr. Chair, and perhaps if you're willing to maybe provide a little bit of an update as to how this went. But through the chair, we've provided written correspondence back to the Sol Gen for thanks for a meeting in which the chair attended, speaking in Toronto at Roma. And Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if there's more you'd like to top up on that, or perhaps inform the board of kind of the outcome.
Thanks, Chief. Through an invitation that was directed to the town, there was a consideration, and we actually followed through with meeting with the minister in Toronto during the Roma conference. The delegation was well received by the minister, who spoke very highly of the Aylmer Police Service and its staff. There were some recommendations that the minister indicated because of the success of the Aylmer Police Service in policing and advocating for enhancements that the Minister's Office is pursuing in a very positive manner. It was a good morning for the Aylmer Police Service and for the board in making sure that the concerns, generally of a fiscal nature, were understood by the minister, and he was on board with the conversations. Any questions? Is the board in favor of forwarding the letter to the minister? Just to make sure we're all on the same page. Member French?
I'm okay with the letter. I just think that perhaps next year when we go to Roma, we may want to have even a more further discussion with the board so that we can all get our heads together and maybe come up with even more questions. I'm not sure all the questions that were asked, but possibly there could be more questions. So I'm just bringing that up, that maybe we should have a more, intense conversation about the meeting, because Roma's every year. And I'm sure next year the board's going to want to go and speak, at the Roma conference. So I would just suggest that possibly next year we could have a more, intense conversation about that. And I'm sure there were some questions maybe that might have been missed, and that would be unfortunate, right? So I'm just suggesting that maybe we have a better list next year. I mean, I'm glad we met with them, but it'd be nice if we could even give them more information what we do, and if we do have more questions, that's just my thoughts on it.
Excellent thoughts, and in hindsight, that suggestion will be implemented. It was an oversight this particular year, just in the timing, more so than anything else. But it's a good thought. Okay, further, Chief?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to top up the point with respect to the Solicitor General, he actually came to our police station on Monday, called us and actually wanted to come. He was in the area. He went to some other services as well. But he toured the station, was very complimentary, and wanted to kind of convey back to the board and the town that the way that we've gone about the station and really taking control of our police service and what we have here, he said, was second to none and a leader and very remarkable. So it was a very good meeting with him, and he wanted to basically communicate that back, that appreciates the support of the board. So.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, which was to receive all the correspondence? All those in favor? Thank you, and that motion is carried. Michelle, closed session?
That the Police Service Board shall move into a meeting close to the public at 9:53 a.m. to consider reports from the Chief of Police regarding Deputy Chief evaluation and review update, from the Secretary regarding the Chief of Police evaluation, and from the Acting Chair regarding negotiations, and that consideration of these items is closed to the public pursuant to Section 44(2)B and D of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board, and D, labor relations and employee negotiations.
Moved by Member Andrews, Member Graves. Okay. We're going into, all those in favor? Going into closed. Thank you.
Next resolution is to adjourn.
Just to rise.
The information from closed.
Yeah, that the board rise from the meeting close to the public at 10:30 a.m. and reports the following: that the board received the reports of the chief of police, the secretary, and the acting chair regarding evaluations and negotiations, and that the board provided confidential direction to the chief of police and the acting chair and the secretary.
Member French, Member Andrews. All those in favor? Moving on to adjournment.
That the board now adjourn at 10:30 a.m.